So, if you're moving towards a green card through marriage to an American, thankfully, this visa can have a really high approval rate, but there's things that can get in the way to pause, delay, or even result in a rejection. In this video, we're going to be talking about the IR1 and CR1 visas. And Lisa, please help us understand what are these visas and what are they helping people accomplish?
So these visas are for people who are already married to Americans, so not dating or engaged to, that would be the K visa, but for people who are already married to Americans who are ready to demonstrate that they're in a credible marriage, not solely for the purposes of immigration, in order to move to and live in the United States with their American spouse.
Sounds like this is going to be a really exciting visa, because it's based in marriage, working towards permanent residency and green cards. But there's going to be some challenges in the process, in the paperwork and preparation. So if you want to learn how to be best prepared and avoid delays, stay tuned, friends. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chine Coaching. I'm Rob. At Chine Coaching, we're all about helping you to thrive and succeed in your cross-cultural journeys, especially with immigration. We love helping people get their visas approved, go abroad, and have smooth processes with getting the visas you need to study, to work, to be with family members. And today we're going to be talking about IR1 and CR1 visas, preparation process, and visa interview. We've got the amazing expert Lissa with us. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a consultant with Argo Visa. We specialize in helping people prepare for their visa interviews. Prior to consulting with Argo Visa, I was with the US State Department for 13 years in a variety of countries and a variety of positions. Relevant to today's discussion, I was the immigrant visa chief in Paris for 3.5 years.
Yeah, your background is really fitting for our topic today. I'm excited to learn because I don't know as much about these specific visas. But where a lot of people can face bumps in the road is with kind of the early stages with documents. And so, Lisa, tell us more about kind of the CR1, IR1, the processing and getting approval even before the visa interview.
This category of visa is quite different from, what we normally talk about because it is an immigrant visa, meaning it's going to allow you to go to the United States and stay there. So kind of a lot of conversations that you might see online when you Google the word, US visas about home ties are not going to apply to this category of visa. But of course, the US government takes very seriously, bringing somebody over to the US and giving them the right to live and work in the US. And so there's going to be a lot of paperwork to apply for this category of visa. Sometimes the process can take up to a year. And that's because the process starts with USCIS, which is, a major federal agency in the US. The American petitioner would file the paperwork for their foreign spouse with USCIS. USCIS does its due diligence. Then they send the petition, once it's approved, to the National Visa Center. And the National Visa Center, they do their due diligence and they make sure that the paperwork gets mailed to the correct post, so US Embassy or consulate with the US State Department abroad, for the interview with the applicant. The application kind of goes through three major steps. It is mailed through snail mail. It's not electronic. And everybody is doing their part to ensure that the application is complete and actually ready for interview before the foreign national is invited for the visa interview. So it can be a really long process. It's pretty opaque. There's a lot of frustration, I think, for people out there who are waiting for this process to complete, to not know where exactly in the process they are. But with patience, the interview does happen for people, and it's usually a very happy day.
So make sure that you are just triple checking those details, following the steps, getting help if you're not sure, because the worst thing is to do paperwork, send it in, and have something missing, wrong, and that's just going to set you back. So to streamline, really follow the details, the rules, and get the help that you need before it's too late. And immigrant visas are quite different than the non-immigrant, like a student or temporary work visa, which is what we cover a lot of. So what are some of the best prep tips, Lisa, for people with these potential immigrant visas and how they can prepare for that visa interview.
Well, there's kind of two sides, right? One side is the paperwork, and then the other side is the interview itself. In terms of the paperwork, you want to make sure that you are following to a T the instructions you get from the embassy before your interview to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. Then, when you go in for your visa interview, just know the question on the officer's mind or what they're trying to establish is that the applicant is not married solely for the purposes of immigrating to the US. Or another way that you can think about it is they want to know that you're married to this American for the reasons that people typically get married and not just for immigration. Now, if part of your motivation for marrying this person is that they're American and you get to live in the US, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think, when we look at who we marry, we base our decision on all different kinds of factors, but it's not the one that you want to bring up in your visa interview. You definitely want to be talking about the other reasons that you decided that this person was the one that you wanted to spend the rest of your life with.
Yeah, I know that there's movies, rom-coms about this, and things in comment sections and chat boards about kind of green card marriages where it's kind of a sham marriage and it's only to facilitate a visa or people able to stay or come in the country. And so those are the things that I think the visa officers are going to be looking for and wanting to prevent, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the way to avoid this suspicion is to speak convincingly about your reasons for choosing this person, to talk about the time that you've spent together physically, because oftentimes people who are applying for this category of visa have been physically separated for some time. So either talking about the times that you have gotten together or how you communicate if you're not able to be together physically, talking about what you know about the person, and in non-generic terms. I think it's really common for people to say, oh, I married this person because they're very nice and they're kind and smart. And if what you're saying about your spouse could be said about anybody's spouse, then probably it's a bit too generic. So you want to
Yeah.
be really specific about your spouse, what you like about them, why you decide to get married. And if you're asked questions about, how did you meet? How much time have you spent together? You want to go in with the plan to speak fully, be an open book, to give the juicy details, if you will, just as if you were talking to a friend about your relationship.
Now, Lisa, when people show up for that visa interview, what is that day of experience like, and what can they expect for a CR1 or IR1 visa interview experience?
So the person who interviews people for this category of visa is usually separate and different from the people that are interviewing most of the other visa categories. So they're not the same person that's interviewing students, tourists. And so they tend to have a little bit more time. There's less pressured, and so the interview will be longer than it would be for a non-immigrant visa. But the process of getting to the embassy is the same. It's usually not a pleasant experience. You're going to be going through security. The important thing to know about going through security is you're not going to be able to bring any electronics. So any proof of your relationship that you want to show to the officer should be in hard copy, and that includes pictures. Pictures, they say 1,000 words. And the pictures that you want to bring to prove your relationship aren't necessarily intimate pictures. They're definitely not posed pictures, but pictures that kind of give the officer some insight into like what a everyday experience for the two of you might be. A
Hmm.
lot of people bring in wedding photos, which is great, but those posed wedding photos in a studio of just the two of you are not nearly as convincing as photos of the party after the wedding ceremony, where we can see, you with their family and vice versa, or pictures where you're together with friends or trips that you've taken. Just those kind of organic photos are a lot more compelling than formal posed, and certainly you don't need to bring overly intimate photos either.
Yeah, or maybe just even early on of, friendship, dating, and that kind of tell the story and the journey.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you've been together for a while, then, showing pictures from the different points in your relationship can be very persuasive. The other thing you can bring to prove your relationship is to print out conversations that maybe you've had via text or WhatsApp or email. That's the other thing that you want to print out ahead of time because you're not going to be able to bring your electronics. Then, when you go in for your visa interview, the officer will likely, first person you meet will likely be a locally engaged staff member. They're going to make sure you have that all important paperwork together and ready to go. You'll get fingerprinted, and then you have your interview with the American officer.
Great. That's very helpful to hear. It's interesting, because commonly other visa interviews maybe are only 30 seconds to 2 minutes, but it sounds like these are going to be longer, more detailed conversations. Is that correct?
Yeah, the visa officer has the luxury of a little bit more time with immigrant visa interviews. And so, be prepared for the most commonly asked questions, which is how did you meet? How did they propose? Why did you decide to get married? Where was the wedding? And all these questions are designed to give you the opportunity to open up and talk about your relationship and demonstrate that it's a credible one. And there's no right or wrong answer to these questions. I actually interviewed a couple once that had met on Farmyard, which apparently is like some online game. So it's not like you have to meet some traditional way. But what was convincing about this couple was how specific their story was, how unique it was, and that applicant's ability to talk about why they were sure this was the person for them. The other piece of advice I can give you to help answer these questions would be to like watch some American reality shows like Love is Blind, see how Americans talk about their relationships,
Mm,
because I think there can be sometimes really big cultural divides in the difference in how we talk about our loved ones. In a lot of
hmm.
cultures, your feelings about your partner um, are highly personal and not something that people are used to talking about. Whereas Americans will tell somebody sat next to them on the bus, about marriage problems or something like that. So, I think the officer is looking at your body language. They're looking to see, how your disposition changes or doesn't change when you're talking about, what are supposed to be some of the best memories in your life. So if you know yourself to not be comfortable talking about your relationship, yeah, take a look at some American television shows, and you'll kind of know what the bar is and what the unconscious expectation of a visa officer is when people are talking about their partners and the reasons for getting married.
That's great. And with those common questions you mentioned, the CR1 is for being married less than 2 years, IR1 is for 2 years or more. Is that gonna impact questions, or is it gonna be pretty much the same, just your length of marriage is different?
Yeah, I mean, the bar is the same and the applicant's goal at the interview is the same. Both those categories of visa are for people who are married to Americans. If you're applying for a CR1, it means you haven't been married as long. So there might be a couple more questions for you than there would be for somebody who's been married 10 years and, already has children with the American citizen. So, if you haven't been married as long, if you don't yet have children together, then you might have a little more heavy lifting to do to demonstrate that this is a marriage not for the purposes of immigration. And then the other thing to know as a CR1 applicant is that you will be having a second interview in the US with DHS or USCIS to remove conditions before you're considered full-fledged LPR.
Great. Friends, if you're learning a lot like me, hit that like button to say thanks and cheers to Lisa for sharing all this amazing insights and knowledge about this visa interview process. And our chai question for you, friends, is where will you be giving your visa interview? Let us know which consulate, embassy, city, country. We'd love to see where our community is coming in from, where you guys are preparing for, and maybe how we can help you out with those ways, or if you have specific questions. So let us know in the comments where you guys are going to be giving your visa interviews. Okay, Lisa. Seems like, with these green card visas that come through marriage, it's different than other common visa interviews. So, what are key factors that are going to help people get that success and hopefully that good news approval that they're working towards?
The number one thing that trips people up at these visa interviews is not having their paperwork in order. The most common paperwork mistakes that people make are not having an updated affidavit of support. That's the paperwork you fill out to demonstrate that your American spouse has the financial means to take care of you. You should also make sure that that American spouse has been filing their taxes at least for the most recent years. Secondly, having police certificates from places around the world that you've resided before. Sometimes these can be really difficult to get, but with very, very few exceptions, they are generally required. And there is country-specific information about, what the police, if the police certificate is obtainable, can you, and how to obtain it. And so if that information is available, then you are expected to provide the police certificate. And then the third thing would be the medical exam. You do have to see a panel physician, which is a doctor in the local country designated by the US State Department to conduct these sorts of exams. And that has to be all done before you get your visa as well. The good thing about having all of your paperwork complete at the time of your interview is that if and when you're approved your visa, you get that great sense of relief of the officer telling you, hey, you're approved. But if you don't, then even if the interview goes well, the officer has to say, hey, sorry, you're refused for what we call administrative processing until you can provide the necessary paperwork. So there's the paperwork factor, and then of course what we discussed earlier, which is being an open book in your visa interview, trying to share with the officer a little bit of your own personality, the personality of your spouse, so that it's easier for them to quickly perceive that you're in a credible relationship.
Yeah, and we've made another video about that 221G administrative processing, kind of the trickiness of that, how to get out of that. So if you get stuck there, check that out. But if you are getting stuck, if you're having issues or not sure how to prepare or can't move forward, I think Argo Visa has some great resources to help. So Lissa, please share how you and the other Argo officers can really help people be successful and get approved.
Yeah, so the great thing about a consultation with Argo Visa is you'll be speaking to an officer who used to conduct immigrant visa interviews, just like the one that you're going into. So they can take a look at your situation, let you know if they think that there's any red flags in your case that you need to be aware of. And if so, develop a strategy for overcoming those red flags. They'll also do mock interviews with you. And then that way you get a sense of what the pace and feeling of the questions are like. People are often shocked at how unfriendly and abrupt the interview is. And so it's good to be prepared and have practiced how to speak in a friendly, open manner when the questions are being shot at you in anything but a friendly manner. And then, of course, with that, we will give you, an assessment of how good your answers are, and in any way any ways that you can improve your answer.
Yeah, you'll get the best advice from people with tons of experience, having conducted tens or even hundreds of thousands of visa interviews around the world. And make sure you also check out their great visa checkup tool, a little cool AI chatbot. It takes your details, what the visa you're preparing for, plugs it in there, and shoots out a score, kind of red, yellow, green, based on your preparedness and chances of getting approved or rejected. So start that. That's free. See where you're at, and that might give you an idea of, okay, I really need some extra help, and a coaching call, a mock interview might be worth your time. Lissa and I, we've also made another video on F2 visa interviews for dependent spouse children for international students. If you or a friend is working towards an F2 visa, check it out. We'll have the links for that one as well. And Lissa, thanks so much for sharing about CR1, IR1. I learned a ton, and I know it's going to help a lot of people in their journeys. Friends, if you're looking for more help, make sure you connect with us online on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. You'll find more great tips and content there. Our newsletters also have great resources, upcoming events and opportunities, great articles to read there. We love having you be part of our Chine coaching community. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everyone next time. Cheers.